Let me tell you something about letting go. It's not just a step, it's a leap of faith. Moving on is one of the hardest things we can ever do because it forces us to release what we've grown comfortable with, even when that comfort is suffocating us. We hold on to people, situations, and even mindsets because they've become familiar. But God didn't call you to be comfortable. He called you to be obedient. And sometimes obedience means releasing what you've been clinging to so tightly. You see, holding on can feel like control, but in reality, it's resistance. It's resistance to the work God is trying to do in your life. We say we trust Him, but our actions tell a different story. We cling to relationships that are draining us, jobs that are beneath our purpose, or habits that are breaking us. We tell ourselves, what if I can't find better? What if I fail? What if I let go and it all falls apart? But let me remind you, if God is asking you to release it, then He has something better waiting on the other side. The problem is, we can't receive with clenched fists. We can't move forward while holding on to what's behind us. Think about the story of Lot's wife. When God told her and her family to leave Sodom, He gave one instruction. Asterisk. Don't look back. Asterisk. But she couldn't resist. Her heart was still tied to what God was trying to deliver her from. And what happened? She turned into a pillar of salt. She became frozen in time, stuck in the very place God was trying to free her from. How many of us are spiritually frozen because we refuse to let go? We're holding on to people who have already shown us their true colors. We're holding on to seasons that have already ended. We're holding on to bitterness, fear, and resentment. And all the while, God is saying, let it go. I have something greater for you, but you've got to trust me enough to release it. When you let go, you're not just giving up something, you're making room for something new. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go is the uncertainty. You don't know what's coming next, and that uncertainty can feel like stepping off a cliff. But let me tell you this, when you step off in faith, God will either catch you or teach you how to fly. He will never leave you stranded. He will never leave you empty-handed. Every time you release something that no longer serves your purpose, God replaces it with something that aligns with your destiny. I know it's not easy. I know it hurts. Letting go can feel like losing a piece of yourself because you've invested so much your time, your energy, your love, your tears. But hear me clearly. Letting go is not losing. It's gaining. It's gaining clarity, peace, and freedom. When you hold on to something or someone that God has already told you to release, you're blocking the blessings that are waiting for you. You're saying, God, I know better than you. But when you let go, you're declaring, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. And let me tell you what happens when you take that step. First, you'll feel lighter. You'll feel the weight of what you've been carrying fall off your shoulders. You realize that the burden wasn't yours to bear in the first place. Second, you'll find clarity. When you're stuck in the wrong place with the wrong people, it's hard to see where God is trying to take you. But when you let go, your vision becomes clearer. You'll begin to see the opportunities, the doors, and the people that God has positioned to take you to the next level. And third, you'll experience peace. not the kind of peace the world gives, but the peace that surpasses all understanding. That peace comes from knowing you're exactly where God wants you to be. Don't let fear keep you bound. Don't let guilt make you stay in a place that's no longer serving your growth. Don't let the opinions of others dictate your destiny. People will try to tell you you're making a mistake. You're giving up too soon. You're being selfish. But they don't know the battles you fought. They don't know the prayers you've prayed. They don't know the nights you've cried out to God asking Him for direction. Let them talk. Let them speculate. You're not living for their approval. You're living for God's purpose. And here's the truth. When you let go, not everyone will understand. Some people will be hurt, angry, or confused. That's okay. Your obedience is not for them to understand. It's for God to reward. And as you move forward, they'll see the fruits of your faith. They'll see the favor that follows you. They'll see the doors that open for you. And maybe, just maybe, your decision to let go will inspire them to do the same. So today, I challenge you to take inventory of your life. What are you holding on to that God is asking you to release? Who are you holding on to that is no longer aligned with your destiny? It's time to make a decision. When you make the decision to move on, when you walk away from the things that have been draining your energy, your spirit, and your time, there is always fallout. Sometimes we imagine that when we step away, things will just fade into the background and everyone will move on, but that's rarely the case. In reality, your absence is felt more than you realize. And while you're walking into a new chapter, those you left behind are left to pick up the pieces. The fallout after you leave is a process of shift that ripples outward and leaves a wake of change. And let me tell you this, the fallout is not your burden to bear. First, let's talk about the impact your departure has on the people you leave behind. In any relationship, whether personal, professional, or even spiritual, you have invested something. You have poured your energy, your love, your resources, and your heart into that connection. And when you leave, it's not just a simple transition. It's a jolt to the system. People feel the absence. They feel it in ways they may not even be able to articulate, but it's undeniable. You see, we can get used to the people around us even when they aren't treating us right. We get accustomed to their presence, to their ways, to the energy they bring. And when you walk away, even if you're the one who's been wronged, their world is disrupted. And that disruption can manifest in many ways: confusion, resentment, and sometimes even anger. But here's what you need to understand. Just because they feel the sting of your departure doesn't mean you're responsible for how they handle it. They have to face the consequences of their actions and the truth of their own behavior. If you've been in a toxic environment, or if you've been giving more than you've been receiving, your absence is a moment for them to reflect, not for you to feel guilty. The fallout is necessary. They need to face the reality that what they were doing was no longer enough to keep you in their lives. When you leave, you force them to look in the mirror and ask themselves the tough questions. What went wrong? How did I contribute to this situation? What am I going to do differently moving forward? But these questions are theirs to answer, not yours. And the thing is, while they're left To face the reality of your absence, you are facing your own new reality. When you leave, you step into unfamiliar territory. It's like walking into a new world where everything is different, where everything you knew and relied on is no longer there. The comfort you once had in the familiar now gives way to the uncertainty of the unknown. But in that space of uncertainty is where God works. In that space of feeling alone and displaced, he begins to move. You may not see it right away, but every step you take in that new direction is one step closer to becoming the person you were always meant to be. But let's not sugarcoat it. The fallout after you leave is painful. It's painful to know that some people may never understand your decision. It's painful to realize that even if you wanted to explain, they may not be in a place to hear you. Some people will question your motives. They'll wonder if you're being too harsh or too quick to walk away. And here's the kicker, they may even try to make you feel guilty for leaving, for setting boundaries, for choosing yourself. But you have to be strong enough to say, no, I've made this decision for my own healing, for my own growth. Don't let guilt be the price of your peace. The moment you choose your well-being over staying in an unhealthy situation, you are declaring that you value your future more than your past. And while you're grappling with the changes, let me tell you that God is working behind the scenes, weaving a new tapestry for your life. The fallout that you face after leaving is not just a consequence, it's a catalyst. It's a catalyst for growth, for healing, and for transformation. Every person who is affected by your departure, every situation that shifts in the wake of your decision is part of the greater plan God has for you. The fallout is part of the divine process. It clears the space for the new relationships, opportunities, and blessings that are coming your way. The truth is, the fallout is often a sign of your obedience. When you leave something behind, you make room for God to bless you with something better, something greater. You might not see it right now, but just know that every bit of discomfort you feel in the aftermath is shaping you, strengthening you, and preparing you for the next level of your life. Your obedience is not in vain. Every time you walk away from what is no longer serving your purpose, you open the door for God to work in ways you never imagined. Some people won't understand your growth, and that's okay. They'll see you moving on, and they might even try to pull you back into the past. There's a weight that comes with accountability, a weight that many of us try to avoid because we don't want to face the truth of our own actions, choices, and the consequences they bring. But accountability is not something we can escape no matter how hard we try. The moment you step into your own power, the moment you decide to take control of your life, you must also accept the responsibility that comes with it. You see, when we live in a world where it's easy to blame others, to point fingers, to shift the blame onto the circumstances, true growth happens when we stand face to face with the fact that we too have played a part in the story that's unfolded. For so long, you may have been carrying other people's burdens, whether it was a toxic relationship, a job that didn't appreciate you, or a situation that didn't serve your purpose. And in that, you took on a level of accountability that wasn't even yours to carry. You may have felt that it was your job to save people, to carry their pain, or to fix things for them, thinking that by doing so, you were somehow helping them or doing something noble. But here's the harsh reality. Sometimes what we think is helping is actually enabling. And when you enable others to stay in their dysfunction, you start to carry their mess, their bad decisions, and their consequences. And that weight becomes heavier and heavier until it starts to crush you. Now, when you make the decision to walk away, to stop carrying the load that isn't yours to bear, you are forced to face your own accountability. There's no more deflecting, no more shifting the blame. You're the one left standing in the aftermath of your decisions, your actions, your choices, and their consequences. And that's where the real weight lies. It's easy to point at others and say, it's their fault. But when you take ownership of your own role in a situation, you can no longer hide behind excuses or rationalizations. You've got to look yourself in the mirror and ask, what part did I play in this? And let me tell you, that question is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because it forces you to confront the truths about yourself that you'd rather ignore. But here's the truth. Accountability is not about shame or guilt. It's about liberation. It's about understanding that you have the power to shape your own life, to choose the path you walk, and to stop blaming others for the things you have control over. When you stop externalizing your problems and start looking inward, you unlock the ability to grow and evolve. Yes, you may have made mistakes. Yes, you may have allowed things to happen that you shouldn't have, but you have the power to change your story. That's the gift of accountability. It's not about dwelling in the past. It's about using your awareness to transform your future. But let's talk about the people left behind. When you walk away, when you stop being the one to carry the load, it forces others to face their own accountability. They can no longer lean on you. They can no longer blame you. They are forced to look at themselves in a way that they may have never done before. And let me tell you, that's uncomfortable. People don't like to be confronted with the reality that they've been irresponsible, that they've been selfish, that they've been toxic. But when you leave, they no longer have a scapegoat. The weight of accountability falls on them, and it's either going to break them or force them to grow. In many ways, the greatest gift you can give to someone is the gift of accountability. When you stop enabling their behavior, when you stop carrying their burdens, you give them the space to step up and own their own role in the situation. It's not your job to fix them. It's not your job to carry their guilt, their shame, or their brokenness. You have your own journey to walk. And when you refuse to take on someone else's weight, you allow them to face the reality of their own choices. And in that, they may just find the strength they need to change. But here's the thing. While the weight of accountability can be heavy, it's also liberating. When you stop carrying the weight of other people's mistakes and start taking responsibility for your own, you free yourself. You release the burden of trying to fix things that aren't yours to fix, and you allow yourself to move forward with peace. Accountability doesn't mean perfection. It means owning your truth. It means saying, I messed up, and then taking the necessary steps to do better. It means saying, I am responsible for how I allow things to unfold, and then choosing to make a new choice moving forward. The mirror of conviction is a powerful, often uncomfortable reflection that forces us to confront our own truth. It's a mirror that doesn't show us who we want to be, but who we really are at our core. It doesn't gloss over our flaws or excuses, but instead it brings them to the surface where they can no longer be ignored. For many of us, this mirror is something we avoid at all costs because it demands honesty, vulnerability, and change. But in order to grow, to heal, and to evolve, we must stand before it and look deeply into the reflection it offers. Conviction is not condemnation. Let's be clear about that. Conviction is the inner voice that calls us higher, that gently or forcefully reminds us of what we're capable of and what we deserve. It's a wake-up call that stirs something inside us, urging us to take responsibility for our actions and choices. It tells us that we are better than the patterns we've fallen into, the habits we've allowed to define us, and the lies we've told ourselves. When you stand before the mirror of conviction, you don't just see your failures, you see the potential for redemption, transformation, and growth. Conviction is the truth that sets you free, not the one that binds you in shame. But to get there, you have to face it first. So often we run from conviction. We hide behind distractions, excuses, and denial, telling ourselves that what we did wasn't that bad or that it wasn't our fault. We surround ourselves with people who enable this behavior, who tell us what we want to hear instead of what we need to hear. But here's the reality. When we avoid the mirror of conviction, we stay stuck in our brokenness. We never give ourselves the chance to heal, to change, to become who we're meant to be. And worse, we continue to hurt ourselves and others by living in denial of the truth that's right in front of us. But when you allow yourself to face the mirror of conviction, everything changes. At first, it feels like a painful confrontation. You're confronted with the consequences of your actions, the hurt you've caused, and the mistakes you've made. And in that moment, it can feel overwhelming. You may feel like you're not worthy of forgiveness, like your past is too heavy for you to carry. But that's where the power of conviction lies. It doesn't leave you in despair. It doesn't allow you to wallow in self-pity. Conviction is not the voice that tells you to give up. It's the voice that calls you to rise up. It says, you can do better. You will do better. You are capable of change. It's a mirror that reflects your brokenness, but also reflects the beauty of your ability to heal. When you stand before this mirror, you begin to see things clearly. You see the areas of your life that need attention, the relationships that need healing, and the habits that need breaking. You start to see the patterns that have kept you stuck, the things you've been avoiding, and the ways you've been lying to yourself. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows you what's real, even when you don't want to see it. And that's uncomfortable. But it's also necessary. What's incredible about the mirror of conviction is that it doesn't just show you what's wrong, it shows you the path forward. When you face it, you begin to understand what you need to do to change, to grow, and to move forward in life. It's like standing in front of a map and being able to clearly see where you are and where you need to go. Conviction doesn't keep you in the past. It pulls you towards your future. It's an invitation to become the person you're meant to be, to leave behind old patterns, to break free from destructive cycles, and to walk into the fullness of who you are called to be. But standing before this mirror requires courage. It's easy to stay in denial. It's easy to keep going through life without ever stopping to truly examine ourselves. But if we're ever going to reach our full potential, we need to pause and look at the reflection of our own actions, thoughts, and decisions. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. The mirror of conviction is not there to condemn you, but to give you the clarity and the strength to become better than you were yesterday. As you look into the mirror, don't be afraid to see the truth. Yes, you may have made mistakes. Yes, you may have hurt people, including yourself. But conviction isn't about staying stuck in guilt or regret. It's about learning from those moments and taking the lessons with you. It's about forgiving yourself and others and stepping into a new chapter with renewed strength and purpose. The mirror of conviction offers you the opportunity to grow, to evolve, and to step into your higher self. The beauty of this mirror is that it doesn't leave you there. It doesn't show you the truth and then abandon you. Conviction always invites change. Healing is often seen as a passive process, something that happens to us over time, but in reality, it requires immense strength. Healing is not just about recovering from physical wounds or emotional scars. It's about rising from the ashes of your pain and choosing to move forward. It takes strength to heal because healing doesn't happen overnight. And it often requires facing difficult truths, letting go of things you've held on to, and embracing vulnerability. In the midst of healing, you discover a power within you that you may not have known existed, a strength that comes from choosing to face your pain instead of avoiding it. The first thing to understand is that healing isn't linear. It's not a straight path that moves from point A to point B. It's a winding road full of ups and downs, moments of progress, and moments of setback. This is where your strength comes into play. It takes strength to keep going even when it feels like you're not getting anywhere. When the weight of your past is still heavy on your shoulders, and when you feel like you've been walking in circles. But in those moments, the very act of continuing to move forward is a demonstration of strength. Healing requires patience, and it requires the courage to face the parts of yourself you'd rather avoid. Many people think that healing means forgetting the pain or pretending it didn't happen. But true healing requires you to face the pain head on and acknowledge its impact. It takes strength to admit that you've been hurt, that something or someone has caused you deep emotional pain, and that it's affecting your life. This is often the hardest part because it can feel like exposing yourself, showing your wounds to the world, and opening yourself up to more hurt. But that vulnerability is where your strength begins to grow. When you allow yourself to feel the full extent of your pain, when you stop numbing it or pushing it aside, you give yourself the opportunity to heal. It's in the acceptance of your pain that you begin to transform it into something stronger, something more resilient. Healing also requires letting go. This is where many people get stuck. We hold on to things because they're familiar, even if they're toxic or no longer serve us. Whether it's a relationship that has run its course, a job that no longer fulfills us, or a painful memory that continues to haunt us, letting go takes an incredible amount of strength. Letting go means releasing the hold that past experiences or negative beliefs have on your life. It means making the difficult decision to stop allowing your past to dictate your future. This doesn't mean forgetting or denying what happened. It means choosing to no longer be controlled by it. Letting go is an act of self-care. It's choosing to prioritize your own well-being over the weight of the past. And it requires you to trust that there's something better waiting for you. In healing, you also have to embrace change. Healing doesn't just restore you to your previous state, it transforms you. And transformation can be scary. It requires stepping out of the comfort zone of familiarity, even if that familiarity is painful. It takes strength to allow yourself to change, to become someone new. Change can be uncomfortable, and sometimes it feels easier to stay in the pain of the past rather than move into the unknown. But real healing happens when you embrace change and allow it to shape you. You become stronger, more resilient, and more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Healing, in this sense, is an act of reinvention, a chance to become the best version of yourself, even through the challenges you've faced. Perhaps one of the most powerful aspects of healing is that it shows you the strength of your spirit. When you've been broken, when you've been knocked down, it can feel like there's nothing left to give. But in those moments, you tap into a well of strength you didn't even know existed. You find out just how resilient you are, how capable you are of picking yourself up and moving forward. The healing process reveals the depth of your inner strength and shows you that no matter what you've gone through, you have the power to rebuild. You may not feel strong in every moment, but as you keep going, you will discover that your spirit is more powerful than you ever imagined. Healing also brings clarity. When you're in the midst of pain, it's easy to feel lost, confused, and uncertain about your future. But as you heal, you gain perspective. You begin to see the lessons that your pain has taught you, the growth that has come from the struggle. It's in the process of healing that you find your true self, your authentic self, because the layers of hurt, fear, and doubt are stripped away. The more you heal, the more you begin to see the beauty in yourself, in your journey, and in your capacity to overcome.